It is my pleasure to introduce our MC tonight, Anthony Powell. Anthony is the artistic director of Stories on Stage, one of our favorite community partners. So I will hand it over to Anthony.
Thanks so much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 34th Annual Colorado Book Awards, hosted by Colorado Humanities and the Colorado Center for the Book. I'm just thrilled and very honored to be serving as your MC tonight. We would like to start with the DCPA land acknowledgement. The Denver Center for the Performing Arts honors and acknowledges that it resides on the traditional and unceded territories of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also recognize the 48 contemporary indigenous tribes and nations who have historically called Colorado home. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and future, and to all those who have stewarded the land and water for generations. May this acknowledgement express the DCPA's commitment to grow and deepen its relationship with the vibrant indigenous communities who continue to thrive and uphold their sacred relationship to the land. So, tonight is all about celebrating the authors, editors, and illustrators whose work enriches Colorado's literary landscape. Now, books are more than words on a page. They are how we share stories that help us make sense of the world. They challenge our perspectives and allow us to imagine new possibilities. Through stories, we learn empathy. We explore ideas larger than ourselves. We feel joy, sorrow, wonder, and curiosity. We reflect on where we've been and dream about where we might go. We need authors, especially now, to help us understand our past and envision a future worth passing down for the generations to come. The finalists gathered here tonight have devoted years of dedication and care to creating work that invites all of us into that shared experience. Would all of this year's Colorado Book Awards finalists please stand? I think they like you. Let's raise our glasses and toast these incredible authors, editors, and illustrators. Congratulations on your achievement, and thank you for all the stories you've gifted us. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker this evening. Ryan Warner is the senior host of Colorado Matters, the flagship daily interview program from Colorado Public Radio. His thoughtful conversations with Coloradans, from authors and artists to governors and scientists, have made Colorado Matters one of the most respected public radio talk shows in the country. Ryan has spent his career in public radio with experience ranging from Missouri to Florida before making Colorado his home. Ryan's interviews help us better understand ourselves, our communities, and the big ideas shaping our world. An especially fitting voice to join us tonight as we celebrate the power of storytelling and literature. So please join me in welcoming Ryan Warner.
I'm going to record this for Colorado Matters, so you're going to see like a moment's radio sausage making. Hold on. Okay. Very high tech. Okay. How do I look defunded? Do I? Good evening. I am haunted. Haunted by characters and places and plot lines and language. And dear authors, this is your fault. In the 20 years that I have hosted Colorado Matters from CPR News, writers have etched a piece of themselves into my memory. Tonight, so that I do not carry this haunting alone, I am going to unleash these ghosts on you by sharing unforgettable exchanges from my show, Colorado Matters. But let me say, for starters, that like Colorado Humanities, Colorado Public Radio believes in books and the people who write them. We believe in prose and poetry because they connect us. First, they connect us to place. I'm going to take that again because I just hit my own mic. First, they connect us to place. I'll never forget the first time I strolled down Main Street in Grand Junction, having learned that it was screenwriter Dalton Trumbo's former haunt. And there it was, a sculpture of the man behind Roman Holiday, poring over words in a bathtub, perhaps trying to soak out the sting of McCarthyism. Second, you all connect us to one another. Who hasn't felt a little less alone because a writer captured an experience that we also had? Books, novels especially, helped me come out of the closet, stay out of the closet, and love more deeply. While he's not a Coloradan, my thanks to Armistead Maupin, whose Tales of the City became a part of me. Any Armistead Maupin fans? Okay, a few. That means many of you are yet to be converted. It's so exciting. You also connect us to our history and to science and to facts, support for which is as important as ever. And before this gets entirely too serious, you also make us laugh. I will never forget an exchange at the Tattered Cover bookstore with novelist Kali Fajardo-Anstein. Her debut short story collection, Sabrina and Karina, was a smash hit, and she followed it up with Woman of Light. And as her star rose, she made sure one person in particular saw it ascend.
My own English teacher in high school told me to drop out, and I did drop out, and I got a GED because of that. I was able to go on. I have a master's degree, but I also dropped out of my first master's program. And I used to be really ashamed of this. I used to try to hide the fact that I had a GED, that I was a 2-time dropout. I'm not ashamed anymore because it wasn't all my fault. Sure, I could have worked harder, I guess, but maybe my teachers could have found some other culturally relevant ways to work with me that would have helped me. And if you're a teacher, I love you. You're doing great work. Love you, not you, other teacher.
You know, that really resonates with me because I had a teacher in high school who said I couldn't write.
Aww.
And I think there's a part of me that wants her to run across my name on the internet and then, just have a little bit of pain, just a little. Do you feel that, like Schadenfreude?
Well, I did do something. So thanks to my dad suggesting this, when Sabrina and Karina first was published, my papa told me, you have to go and give a copy to your English teacher that told you to drop out. And I said, so I signed it and I delivered it to her house and I put it in the mailbox and I said, thanks for telling me to drop out of high school. I'm an author now. And then I took a picture of it and I put it on the internet. And then people were fighting with me, how dare you talk to an educator like that, and unfriending me, and I was like, whatever. And then I came home and told my dad, I'm like, there's backlash. And he's like, I didn't tell you to do the second step, which was, yeah.
I'm going to play other bits of audio from the show, and my favorite way to listen to things is to close my eyes. So you're welcome to close your eyes as you hear some of these bits of tape. There is a literary road atlas that stands out to me. It's called Reading Colorado, and it collects passages about our state along various corridors. So there's writings on Highway 93 from Golden to Boulder, or Highway 50 from Gunnison to Delta. And big names I did not realize have written about Colorado. To my astonishment, Mark Twain.
Well, he just barely dipped into Colorado, Ryan, on his way out to Carson City, Nevada, when he was having all the experiences that he would put into the book Roughing It. And that was in the early 1860s. There was a stage station out in what came to be known as Julesburg.
Aha. Should we hear Mark Twain writing about Colorado? Which, as someone who used to live in Missouri, I just can't imagine Mark Twain that far from a river.
Well, that's interesting that you should bring that up because, you can imagine Mark Twain coming from the Mississippi when he saw, what passes for a river out in Colorado. He wasn't too impressed. So we came to the shallow, yellow, muddy South Platte with its low banks and its scattering flat sandbars and pygmy islands, a melancholy stream straggling through the center of the enormous flat plain, and only saved for being impossible to find with the naked eye by its sentinel rank of scattering trees standing on either bank. The Platte was up, they said, which made me wish I could see it when it was down, if it could look any sicker and sorrier. They said it was a dangerous stream to cross now because its quicksands were liable to swallow up horses, coach, and passengers if an attempt was made to ford it. But the mails had to go, and we made the attempt. Once or twice in midstream, the wheels sunk into the yielding sands so threateningly that we half believed we had dreaded and avoided the sea all our lives to be shipwrecked in a mud wagon in the middle of a desert at last.
I'm not sure Mark Twain likes Colorado. I came here in 2005 for higher ground. I'd been living on the Gulf Coast of Florida, tired of the churn of hurricanes. And very quickly, I was introduced to my first Colorado literary love, the now late Kent Harif, the kindest, gentlest novelist whose dialogue was almost never in quotation marks. He was a former school teacher who set his books in fictional Holt, Colorado, on the plains. And after his death, we spoke with his widow, Kathy, about his writing shed.
It had a desk and a chair and a little heater and his old Royal typewriter. And it had a bull skull, so it hanging on the wall, so he would remember not to write bullshit. And it had a little bookshelf in it, and that was about it. It was great.
And he wrote on a typewriter.
His first draft of a book was always written on an old upright typewriter. He'd pull a stocking cap over his eyes so that he wasn't distracted by punctuation or any of these things. And so he would just be...
He would type blind.
He would type blind, and he'd be typing away. But usually it would be a scene on a page. And he said he only got off home row a couple of times and wrote gobbledygook. But that was just an old typewriter, and you could hear the tap, tap, tap.
It strikes me as very Jack Kerouac, that he was writing in a kind of frenzy or a stream of consciousness.
Well, he would get in some kind of an alpha state or whatever you call it, and writing blind, so he wasn't worried about syntax or punctuation, paragraphs, anything. I mean, he would just type.
I miss him. A piece of feedback I hear from listeners is, Ryan, you always sound so interested in your subject matters. And it's not that I just sound interested, but that I am. I mean, fundamentally, I get a paycheck to satisfy my curiosity and to slake yours. And in the run-up to tonight's gala, it occurred to me that my interest in books and authors comes in part from a place of awe. I do not believe I could do what you do. I write pithy copy that may air a few times, and then I move on. And your commitment to writing, to rewriting, to integrating the critiques you hear is plainly awesome. Two other talents I do not possess, cooking and gardening. And yet so many Colorado chefs and green thumbs have written books that make my mouth water, my nostrils sniff. Professor Camille Dungy at Colorado State University wrote Soil, the story of a black woman's garden. Yeah, let's give it up for Camille. And her descriptions of plants, like leggy, seduced me. You described plants indeed as leggy. I think somewhere in your book, you liken a particular flower to the Rockettes, in fact.
A fuchsia.
Yeah, a fuchsia.
To Moulin Rouge dancing girls.
Yes. How do you come up with simile and metaphor?
Fuchsias look like Moulin Rouge dancing girls. They got their little pistols, legs kicking in their lovely skirts. I trained as a poet, and I don't know how much of that is nature or nurture. Training as a poet makes you pay attention to metaphor and image more carefully, but also innately being a person who paid attention to what things look like made it possible that I was better suited for that line of work.
One of my favorite words is petrichor, which is the smell of the earth after it rains. You also, in this book, invoke chlorophyll and loam when you talk about scent.
Loam's a good word, isn't it?
Loam is a good word. I love how it's spelled L-O-A-M. Mm-hmm. Do you think scent is underused in writing?
I have a exercise I do with students when I'm teaching, and I have them start apprehending the world through their most dominant sense, which for most of us is sight or sound. And then after they get really good with that, I then spring on them that then they have to apprehend the world through their least dominant sense. And it's very frequently smell, that people have difficulty describing smell and understanding what it is they're smelling. It's difficult for me to describe smell without also reaching into one of the other senses.
So here you are, pouring your hearts and souls onto the page, and then you come on a show like mine and agree to be vulnerable before a statewide audience. Another moment that still haunts me, bewitches, bewilders, ensorcels, beguiles, is from 2021. Minister and memoirist Paula Stone Williams, a trans woman, hearkened back to her earlier years as a traveling Christian performer. Do you still sing, one? And two, do you like your singing voice now that you've transitioned?
No one has asked me that question, and I've done a lot of interviews since this book came out. This is the question. Because as difficult as it is for people who knew Paul to meet Paula, it's difficult for people who know Paula to meet Paul.
Aspects of Paul that still dwell in you.
And when I sing in the voice of Paul. I miss it. And yeah, when I'm alone, I let it roar.
Is it a voice you're comfortable sharing with us or not?
I don't think so.
But the pain for you is in the disconnect.
The pain is in seeing the disconnect in the faces of others. I'm speaking at my church this Sunday. I'm talking about how when I was a child, I would just tell my father on a Sunday afternoon, I'm going to sing tonight. And my father played the piano. And I would always sing a patriotic song. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies. It's hard to do this. For amber waves of grain.
Paula's book is called As a Woman. I recommend it as a read. I do believe interviews can be healing for the interviewee. I suspect you believe writing can be healing for the writer and the reader. And so let me haunt you and heal you with another voice from the faith community, Nadia Bowles-Weber. Another bit of hootin' and hollerin'. Let's just let it out for Nadia. Nadia Bowles-Weber, essayist and author, reminds us in chaotic times to unplug.
I used to live in this very old apartment building with super sketchy electrical wiring. Were I to audaciously assume my hairdryer could run while my stereo was on, I would once again find myself opening the gray metal fuse box next to the refrigerator and flipping the breaker. My apartment had been built at a time when there were no electric hairdryers, and the system shut down when modernity just asked too much of it. I think of that fuse box often these days because, friends, I just do not think our psyches were developed to hold, feel, and respond to everything coming at them right now. Every tragedy, injustice, sorrow, and natural disaster happening to every human across the entire planet in real time, every minute of every day. The human heart and spirit were developed to be able to hold, feel, and respond to any tragedy, injustice, sorrow, or natural disaster that was happening in our village.
Okay, one final thing haunts me, but it's not a book, it's books plural. All the books I don't get to and can't get to because of my own limited fuse box. So, to the authors who have packaged up their precious literary cargo, sent it to my attention at CPR, and who have not heard back or who have been told no, do not be discouraged. 1,000 factors beyond your control play into our selections. But louder than my apology tonight is my gratitude for writers and communities that foster and support them. We need you now more than ever. And to tonight's winners, whom we'll discover soon, congratulations. To all of you, thank you for sharing my hauntedness.
Thank you, Ryan. That was so lovely. Now I would like to invite Maggie Koval, Executive Director of Colorado Humanities, home of the Colorado Center for the Book, the state affiliate of the Library of Congress Center for the Book, to the stage, along with Associate Director Sarah Olivier.
Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate the 34th Annual Colorado Book Awards. It's truly a joy to gather in person to honor the authors, editors, and illustrators whose work keeps Colorado's literary spirit thriving. To all of this year's finalists, thank you for your remarkable contributions to Colorado literature. Your stories matter. They connect us, challenge us, and remind us of what's possible. And a heartfelt thank you to our keynote speaker, Ryan Warner, for your thoughtful words and insights, and to Colorado Public Radio for helping to elevate Colorado voices. Yeah, I'm not as tall as those other people. And to our MC, Anthony Powell, from Stories on Stage, thank you for lending your warmth and energy to the celebration. We're also deeply grateful to the many people who made tonight possible. Our generous sponsors and donors, our dedicated board, past board members, incredible staff, and tireless volunteers, our selectors and judges who gave their time and expertise to this process, our finalist authors whose flexibility and support as we shifted to a fundraising model have meant so much. And to all of you, our guests, for showing up, purchasing tickets, standing with us in support of Colorado Humanities. To all of you. This year's book awards are made possible by Denver Arts and Venues through the Arts and Culture Fund, in addition to the major sponsorships of History Colorado and the Durango Herald. We are grateful for the continuing support the Book Awards receives each year from Unite for Literacy and the Colorado Sun, whose Sunlit feature spotlights Colorado authors. Thank you also to Gary Yortz in memory of Teresa Yortz, Thor Nelson, Catherine Baird, and the Colorado Trust. Some applause for all of those people involved. And thank you to AM Fund for enhancing our silent auction with exciting international travel packages, and to Ashley Kasperzak Consulting for your support with all things fundraising. And a special thanks to our bookseller partner, Second Star to the Right, for being here tonight with finalist books available for purchase. Second Star creates a warm, welcoming, safe, and fun shopping experience for bookworms, young and old. So I'll end with some more applause for those people.
So as many of you know, because I've already said it several times tonight, Colorado Humanities is navigating a critical moment. And following on Ryan's earlier comment, I guess this is what it looks like to be defunded. I think we look pretty good tonight, actually. But in all honesty, the impact has definitely been felt by our staff, and I know also very much so by our communities. And just like our partners who are here with us tonight, CPR, Stories on Stage, The Word, the Colorado Sun, I could go on. But I think that the thing is we can all come together in this moment. And tonight, for me, that's a big part of what this means. And I think that we can all be united in the belief in the enduring power of stories to connect and inspire us. So thank you to our authors, because I think that is what you bring us, and it's so very much needed in our world today and always. So thank you all for being part of that vision, and thank you all for the many donations that have been made to hashtag Save Colorado Stories. Thanks for participating in our silent auction. If you were a winner of a trip tonight, you should have received a text message. So hopefully there's some winners out there in the audience tonight. If not, our online auction continues through the weekend. And you can also help out just by spreading the word on social media and tagging us. Or if you want to get more involved as a Humanities champion, you can leave your name and email address back at the auction tables, and we'll reach out to you. All of the support that you've given us, including just being here and buying tickets for tonight, protects access to the public humanities, books, ideas, culture, and conversation for communities across Colorado. And I know that each and every one of you knows how important that is. Now, we would like to return your attention to the reason we're all here, which is our incredible authors and finalists. We're so proud to honor the authors, editors, and illustrators whose work inspires the people of Colorado and beyond. So let the ceremony begin.
We should have rehearsed.
The meat and potatoes of the evening. Thank you, Maggie and Sarah. Now I am honored and very, very excited to move on to the presentation of the 34th Annual Colorado Book Awards. I'll be announcing each category by first naming the finalists and then announcing the winner of the Colorado Book Award. If you're a recipient of the award tonight, please bring your book to the stage to accept your award and honor us all with a short reading from your work. Please take a moment to share any brief remarks with us before you read, and if all of the writers could come up on this side of the stage, we want to take a picture of you in front of this fine banner. And now, should you happen to get wrapped up in the moment and lose all track of time while you're reading, Mary Hickey will gently remind you to wrap it up with a cue from the back of the house. Oh, side of the house. Even better. I can see you. That's great. For those of you updating your social media accounts, please use hashtag Colorado Book Awards, Center for the Book, and our fundraising hashtag, Save Colorado Stories tonight, as you spread the good news about this event and our winners. All right, our first category is anthology. The finalists are Four Corners Voices by Chuck Greaves, Lisa C. Taylor, and Mark Stevens, Ramas y Raíces, The Best of Calma by Colorado Association of Latino Mentors and Authors, The Alma Journal by Prairie Sea Projects, and the Colorado Book Award in Anthology goes to Four Corners Voices by Chuck Greaves, Lisa Taylor, and Mark Stevens. Caleb Stevens is contributing author to this anthology, and will be accepting the award on behalf of Four Corners Voices.
I am not Chuck, Lisa, or Mark, but I'm honored to get to represent them tonight and all of these 40-plus writers who contributed down from the Four Corners part of our state. Yeah, that was fun. So it was such a labor of love, and it's been an amazing thing to see this group of people come together over the past couple years and really just grow. And we've got a couple of our contributors here tonight. So we've got Gus and we've got Caleb and several people. So it's really exciting. I'm going to read a poem from the collection called The Desert's Time by Emily Manning. To love the desert, you must go close and slow down. Take the desert's time. Probably you will need a little boy to show you how to go slow in the desert. And maybe he will need you too. No boy can ever be given too much loving kindness. That boy knows how to fall in love with the desert. He can stick his whole face down on top of a spring poppy, looking eyeball to orange eyeball. He can suck in the sweet, sweet creosote after the rain smell, fill his entire lungs. Sit down with him to study sparkly rocks. Get close enough to see the sparkles in each rock. Every rock sparkles. Not one is the dull gray you see when your eyes are too far away. Run with him through those mountains, fearless over the rocks, brushing shoulders with the cholla. Desert majesty can be exciting, and the desert sun can make you feel full of life, warm, free, and fast and agile as you skirt the cactus. And when you get bit on the ankle by a prickly pear, this is the moment when you should be so lucky to have a little boy next to you. He'll understand if you want to sit down in the sand and cry for a few minutes while you pick out the needles. He'll wait. He knows that falling in love is painful. When you are in love, sit yourself down next to the boy. Sit under a palo verde tree when she has lost all complacency and fluffed out in yellow, and the shade rolls out just for you and that boy. Watch the hawks, red tails fanned, glide over, every Ocotillo arm risen in victory for you and that little boy, and for me, and for every other soul who took the desert's time and learned to love her. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Caleb. Our next category is creative nonfiction, and the finalists are The Afterlife is Letting Go by Brandon Shimoda, The Blue Plate, A Food Lover's Guide to Climate Chaos by Mark J. Easter, Without Exception, Reclaiming Abortion, Personhood, and Freedom by Pam Houston. And the Colorado Book Award in Creative Nonfiction goes to The Afterlife is Letting Go by Brandon Shimoda.
Thank you so much. I have to say the only reason I won is because I was holding a rock that my daughter gave me. I was holding it tight, my lucky rock. To get a little sappy right off the bat here. I'm just going to jump right into this excerpt from my book, and then I'm going to say a few words afterwards. In the days following the murder, on April 11th, 1943, of James Hatsuaki Wakasa in the Topaz concentration camp in west central Utah, the Japanese immigrants and Japanese Americans in camp saw, in the sky above where Wakasa was murdered, hinotama, balls of light. Kiyoshi Katsumoto, 7 at the time, lived in the same block as Wakasa, block 36. He and his friends were playing after dinner when they saw an orange-white ball bouncing around the sky. I asked him, what did it look like? It had jagged edges, he said. Like flames? No, not like flames. Was it translucent? No, it wasn't translucent. Was it solid? No, it wasn't solid. Was it windy? No, it wasn't windy, Kiyoshi said. It was perfectly clear, and to those who were not there, impossible to see clearly. The hinotama bounced for several minutes, then disappeared. Following night, same thing. An orange-white ball with jagged edges bouncing for several minutes, then disappearing. More people saw it the third night. Several minutes, then silence. Even more people the fourth night. Tamashi, the elder said. Hinotama were attributed to premonitions of death, the presence of ghosts after death, the release of energy after someone died, and were often seen near crematories and graveyards. Hinotama, as anthropologist Marvin Oppler notes, grew in times of community distress. They were also reported in the Poston and Tule Lake concentration camps, and the camps in Canada too. The translation of an individual life into a collective death was, on the edge of Topaz, immediate. The Japanese Americans saw in the hinotama the violence inherent in what was being delivered to them as safety, and they were bound to one another in that illusion. As Kiyoshi was talking, I could see clearly in his face the face of a boy 3/4 of a century younger. It was not only the face of a boy looking up at an orange-white ball, but a face the orange-white ball was looking at as it bounced around the sky. And I thought in that moment, the Japanese Americans were looking at something like a star that had already burned out, and with that they were time traveling. Hinotama, the concentrated dawn of the dead's afterlife, a period, an appearance which often requires the strength, however silent and unassuming, of the living to be illuminated. Hinotama, the celestial manifestation of the grief of the Japanese Americans. Thank you. I read that passage because I've been thinking about the things in our life that console us from the violence that surrounds us. Books, for example. Books to me are like Hinotama that you can hold in your hand. They're mysterious, they're made of light, they illuminate life, they give life. I'm saying this also because I've been thinking about, and I cannot stop thinking about, especially tonight as we're celebrating books, thinking about the crisis of defunding. I've been thinking about the fact that there are no libraries left in Gaza. There are no public libraries left in Gaza. They've all been destroyed. All university libraries have been destroyed. The Great Omari Mosque, which housed one of Palestine's largest collection of rare books, has been destroyed. The Edward Said Library, the first English language library in Gaza, which was established by Pulitzer Prize-winning poet Mossab Abu Toha, was destroyed. Bookstores, archives, museums, of course, people's homes and their libraries have been destroyed. This is Libricide, the systematic destruction of books, and through that, the destruction of history and memory. That is what my book is about. The attempted erasure of a people and the legacies of that attempt. And I say attempt because it's also about the refusal to be erased. And that is why I write. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandon. Wow. Our next category is general nonfiction, and the finalists are Countdown, The Blinding Future of Nuclear Weapons by Sarah Scholes, On the Origin of Being by Luke Comer and Jenny Powers, Welcome the Wretched, In Defense of the Criminal Alien by Cesar Cuauhtémoc Garcia Hernandez. And the Colorado Book Award in General Nonfiction goes to Welcome to the Wretched, In Defense of the Criminal Alien by Cesar Cuauhtémoc Garcia Hernandez.
Good evening. I wrote Welcome the Wretched in a moment in which I hoped dearly that writing about the demonization, the denigration, the vilification of migrants might one day be more appropriate for the history category. And I'm sad to say that standing up here, it is very much in the present that we are living these experiences in which yet again in the history of the United States, we find room in our hearts for those darkest moments in which we can look to the most marginalized and the most easily exploited and target them for political and economic gain. And yet in the United States, we have a rich history of welcoming all kinds of people. And in the United States, we have a rich tradition of rising to the moment when the moment so demands it. And sometimes rising to the moment and then and doing so in quite a bloody way. And sometimes we have a tradition in the United States in which those of us whose failures, whose flaws result in death and destruction are nonetheless celebrated. And so I want to share a passage from the closing pages of Welcome the Wretched, from a chapter that I titled Reimagining Citizens, in which I suggest that there's always been room, and there is today, in the citizenry for people whose failures, whose flaws, and whose diabolical tendencies are very much a part of our history, our tradition, and to this day very much celebrated. And so I want to read the passage that's in the closing pages of this book, in which I describe Confederate General Robert E. Lee. Indicted for treason, he was fortunate to avoid prosecution for any wartime crimes. After famously surrendering to Grant in 1865, Lee sought forgiveness. In June of that year, about 2 months after laying down arms, Lee sent President Johnson a written pardon request. A few months later, Lee signed an amnesty oath, pledging allegiance to the country he tried to destroy and the Constitution he so violently ignored. Johnson did not sign off. It appears he may never have even received Lee's plea. In 1970, a State Department archivist found Lee's amnesty request in some old files. 105 years after Lee's death in 1870, President Gerald Ford erased the last legal disability on the secessionist leader's life. On the House floor, Virginia Congressman Caldwell Butler asked, "If Robert E. Lee is not worthy to be a U.S. citizen, then who is?" Well, from the last few months, I can point to a few examples. Narciso Barranco, a gardener in Orange County, California, who was thrown to the ground by ICE agents and punched. When he was released from an immigration prison, 3 U.S. Marines drove him home, his sons. Jaime Alanis Garcia, a farm worker in Caramillo, California, who was at work when ICE agents showed up. He climbed to the top of a greenhouse, then fell 30 feet to his death. Mari Kamba Babazadeh, a chiropractor in Beaverton, Oregon, who was dropping his son at preschool. When ICE agents pulled him over, they broke the window of his car and they arrested him in the school parking lot. Jeanette Vizguerra, a fearless organizer here in Denver who was taking a break from her job when ICE agents arrested her. "We finally got her," Jeanette's lawyer says ICE agents told her. As the world becomes more topsy-turvy, stories like these send me back to my computer day after day, year after year. And as our collective moral compass spins out of control, the intellectual's role to write and to dream becomes a wooden shoe in the gears of violence. And as the power of government takes aim at the thinkers and the creators in the motley crew of dissidents who are trying only to take our rightful place in that glorious list of flawed and fallible people who have breathed life into this nation in which we make our home, communities built of love become our bastion. And for that reason, I'm honored to thank the people who give me space to write and who give me reason to dream. A Solín y Xochitl. Escribo para que ustedes puedan vivir mi sueño de un mundo en que su generación estudia como historia y no vive como realidad el hambre y los muros, la separación de familias y el odio de las personas que son diferentes. Porque ¿quién de nosotros no es diferente? And to Margaret, fuimos diferentes hace 20 años y lo seguimos siendo, imaginando lo que no existe and together building it. Sin tú, nuestra vida imposible nunca se hubiera convertido en lo posible. Gracias. And to all of you who are here tonight, and to the Colorado Center for the Book and Colorado Humanities, thank you. I'm honored and I'm humbled to receive this recognition.
Thank you, Cesar. The next award category is Guidance and Exploration, and the finalists are Act for Burnout by Debbie Sorensen, Land of Ice, Jaunts into Colorado's Glacial Landscape by Vincent Matthews III and James P. McAlpin. Too Tired to Fight by Aaron and Stephen Mitchell. And the Colorado Book Award in Guidance and Exploration goes to Land of Ice, Jaunts into Colorado's Glacial Landscape by Vincent Matthews III and James B. McAlpin.
Wow, what a wonderful present for my 83rd birthday. And even though it's 3 days late, I'll take it. This book was designed for people to hopefully enjoy our beautiful, spectacular scenery that we have in a greater way that you begin to understand it. There's 3 parts to it. The first part explains the glacial features that we find in our mountains. The second is a group of 13 jaunts that you can take that will show you where these features can be found and explain them as you drive along all unpaved roads. And the third is 12 jaunts that, well, actually they aren't jaunts, they're just spots that you can go and kind of explore on your own. I'd like to read the synopsis of one of the jaunts, which is right across from Leadville in Lake Turquoise. And it is titled, Jaunt 8, The Famous Terminal Moraine. Generations of students across the country first learned about glaciers by studying the area in the vicinity of Turquoise Lake. But like me, most of them never visited the area in person. In 1961, I took my first beginning course in geology at the University of Georgia. We used the first edition of a workbook that included an exercise on glaciers. Our assignment was to identify and label the glacial features on the topographic map of Turquoise Lake. The workbook still contains the Turquoise Lake exercise, has sold more than 1 million copies, and is now in the 12th edition. It was a thrill for me to finally visit this area in person 5 decades after that first course. So here is your opportunity to get up close and personal with a famous and spectacular moraine. And I'd like to really thank a few people who are important in this. The center, of course, I appreciate for this honor. I want to recognize Matt Morgan, who is the director of the Colorado Geological Survey, your geological survey. And I thank Matt for believing in this project. I want to thank my co-author, Jim McAlpin, who didn't start out with me, but answered every scientific question that I asked him and sent me an email once that said, ideas for Vince's book, and I took most of them. And I want to thank Larry Scott, who took a drab-looking manuscript and turned it into a work of art. And I want to thank Sarah and Vincent Matthews for their hospitality as I came out here on trips to do this book. And I want to thank Susan, my wife, for going with me on each of these jaunts and making sure that the mileage is all matched and giving me lots of suggestions for this. So thank you for this award.
Thank you, Vincent. The next award category is historical fiction. The finalists are All Our Yesterdays, a novel of Lady Macbeth by Joel H. Morris, Mademoiselle Eiffel, a novel by Amy K. Runyon, Mary's Place, a novel by Charlotte Hinger, And the Colorado Book Award in historical fiction goes to All Our Yesterdays, a novel of Lady Macbeth by Joel H. Morris.
Wow, thank you so much. What an honor this is, and a real shock, I have to say. I think most authors have the experience of just working in isolation and not knowing if the product of their words and their efforts are ever going to be read by anyone else. And that was certainly the case for me in this book. It was a story that drew me back to it, and I wanted to see the end of it and know how it went. So this is a great honor. My novel is about Macbeth, but a prequel to Shakespeare's tragedy, told primarily from the perspective of Lady Macbeth. And I want to recover something of the actual historical woman who really existed, and show perhaps a little bit more of what she might have gone through in order to become the character we know in Shakespeare's play. And so I'm going to read an excerpt here where she is attending the coronation of King Duncan. And Lady Macbeth has been very suspicious of power, especially masculine power, in a world that's dominated by it. And she's been very suspicious of Duncan, who has been told from the time of his birth that he would be king, deserves to be king, has been anointed by God to be king. And she realizes that actually it's people who give power to their leaders. Her husband, in the meantime, is missing the coronation because he is off with their son fighting a battle against rebels who might not feel the same way about kings that those in the nobility attending the coronation do. Straight back, chin raised, Duncan steps to the stone, fans out his robes, and seats himself there. I imagine he has practiced that moment many times, trying for the proper stool, ordering servants to draw the legs to match the measurements of the rock. The bishop prays, speaks to us. We reply in unison. He anoints Duncan with oil, then places an ancient crown upon his head. He hands Duncan a scepter, hands him a sword. These objects have been blessed with God's power. I see it. His scepter twists upwards, gleams even in the scant light of this foul day. His scepter is a golden fire. It is nearly official now. Only a few more incantations to go. The bishop sings the charm, how Duncan is chosen by heaven to be the highest of us all. The words weave realities, pull us up from the ground to see the higher purpose in standing there. In these words, Duncan is transformed. It is not a man seated before us. In his face, we are now to see God's grace, God's power, God's wisdom and judgment. Duncan's body is not a body, but an edifice, a temple, a church. Golden blood flows through his veins. Duncan is king. I look at my cousin. Duff's eyes are wet with tears. The bishop bids Duncan rise, and as he stands, my breath catches. I've seen it all happen, but I am unprepared for its effect. The robes, the crown. Duncan calls to us, pledges his fealty to God and to the people. I feel my own tears brew. He is transformed, and for a moment all my doubts have fled. To see power manifest by sitting on a stone. To see the word made real, the breath made flesh. I feel the sun even though there is no sun. I feel truth. I weep and rejoice as all the others weep and rejoice too. I shout with everyone, hail, hail. Duncan is King of Scotland. For a moment, I believe it. Suddenly, I also believe my son and husband are dead. I clasp my hands to my mouth. The wind wails, pulls at Duncan's robes. I see Macduff scurry to hold them in place, his own coat whipping like a flag. It's an illusion. I was right all along. I'm ashamed to think how I could be so caught up in this, a mere spectacle. My husband and son have gone to fight, to die, and for what? For a man who now wears some gaudy gown, a ring of metal on his brow. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. The next award category is history. The finalists are Rainbow Cattle Company, Liberation, Inclusion, and the History of Gay Rodeo by Nicholas Villanueva, Jr. Shopping All the Way to the Woods, How the Outdoor Industry Sold Nature to America by Rachel Gross. The Cure for Women by Lydia Reeder. And the Colorado Book Award in History goes to Shopping All the Way to the Woods, How the Outdoor Industry Saved Nature to America. Rachel Gross.
So delighted to be standing up here and to be celebrating books with all of you. I wrote this book to address the question of why do Americans go shopping on their way to the woods, which they do to the tune of something like $800 billion a year. I came to this project in part because my parents dragged me up mountains as a child, and I was very unwilling to do that. They were right, of course, about how great it was, so thank you to them. I had only been backpacking for one night in my life when I won a fellowship that was going to take me on a hut-to-hut backpacking adventure around the world for an entire year. The inspiration for this trip was partly intellectual. I was interested in the question of the ideas of wilderness, and I wanted to understand it better. But it was also deeply personal. Those family camping trips that I hated brought me to beautiful mountainous places and shaped my romantic association with the wild and mountains in particular. My introduction to outdoor expertise mostly came from my brother's Boy Scout handbook and Boys Life magazine, and I read all about the merit badges that I imagined I would win if only I was invited to join that club. For my urban upbringing, my life was full of messages that you go to the woods to become most yourself. And so I really took that in. And so when I was contemplating what do I wear on this trip around the world to go hiking, I really paid attention to what I was going to wear, right? So ultimately I chose an orange nylon rain jacket, some Capilene long underwear, and a women's down sleeping bag that was supposed to keep me warm to 15 degrees. Of course, I chose wrong. The gear made my beginner's status glaringly obvious. My spork snapped in half. My cornflower blue shirt was too bright and clean to be worn by any kind of expert. And I tucked into my lime green sleeping bag every night. I was cold because I didn't understand that this cold was seeping up from the ground. Over the course of the year, I learned a whole lot about camping gear, but I started to address this bigger question of why did I care so much about all of this stuff? And why did I think it was going to transform me into some kind of person that I wanted to be? And so after that adventure, I moved on to graduate school where I studied history, specifically environmental history, and I wrote the history of the outdoor industry. It's 150 years of the outdoor companies that have sold this idea of a back-to-nature experience to Americans who have excitedly bought up those ideas and those products. So this book is a book written by a gear lover and for gear lovers that explains just where all these goods come from and why they fill Americans' packing lists. I hope those of you who might pick it up get to contemplate a bit more about this question of where all that stuff that maybe is either something you take out on the trail or is piled up, like me, in your garage or in your basement in the hopes that you might pick it up someday. Finally, I wanted to thank Molly, who wasn't here for the writing of this book, but who has inspired me for all the next set of adventures on the trail. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rachel. Our next category is mystery, and the finalists are A Dream in the Dark, a novel by Robert Justice, Death Valley Duel by Scott Graham, Play of Shadows by Barbara Nicholas. And the Colorado Book Award in Mystery goes to Play of Shadows by Barbara Nicholas. Well, let's congratulate her wherever she is. Fantastic. Our next category is novel. The finalists are Burn by Peter Heller, Familiaris by David Robleski, Sonata in Wax by Edward Hamlin. And the Colorado Book Award in novel goes to Familiaris by David Robleski. David couldn't be here tonight, but we still congratulate him on his win. Yay! The next award is poetry, and the finalists are Fishwife by Elise Kathleen McKenna, In the Country of Hard Life and Rosebuds by Anna Lee Knowles, Tell Me Something Good by Mark Chartier, and the Colorado Book Award in Poetry goes to Fishwife by Elise Kathleen McKenna.
How exciting. I'm just going to read a quick poem for you that to me feels very Colorado and hopefully expresses some gratitude. It's called The Houses. You climb the mountain of the stairs, a 14er. Onward through the light dusting of yellow Labrador hair, through the rising pepper mists of the gas stove. It's like hiking up Pikes Peak, looking backwards into the Colorado you loved and left, summers of summits, high plains with sudden sand dunes, the color of the house you lost in the divorce. Then your own blue place, before the moldy gray, before the shifting moth pink. Years later, in another state, you find the yellow house with red brick, a dense fenced backyard and a burning bush of birds you love so hard another person comes to help you count the flowers. Now your house is 100 years old with a flagstone path, a lone daffodil. The high windows peer over a horizon of greening lawns, long leftover holiday lights. Your bookshelves propagate, stacks and stacks of paper full of stories that used to be trees, and the four-poster bed of your childhood becomes the cove where you and your love roll oceanic over all the loves and bodies that came before. Lucky you, a life of houses, folded one into another like an intricate dessert. Your tooth aches. You lick the spoon. I want to say thank you to my family, who you've heard, for being here tonight. My mom and my husband and my brother. As you all know, it is very hard to be a writer without the support of the people that you love most. Thank you also to Anna and to Mark. I'm so honored to share this category with you, and to the Colorado Humanities for making this possible. And my dad, who died 7 months ago, who was my biggest fan, I wanted to say thank you to him. This is for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elise. The next award category is romance. The finalists are Cole and Layla Are Just Friends, a love story by Bethany Turner. Fairest of the Fair by Sherry Cobb South. Forbidden in the Falls by J.E. Burke, a.k.a. Johanna Parkhurst. And the Colorado Book Award in romance goes to Forbidden in the Falls by J.F. Burke.
To say I'm shocked would be an understatement. Mom, I really hope you got that live stream to work. Speaking of which, I'll just start off by saying, thank you to so many folks who are the reason I'm up here today. Thank you to my parents, my brother Anthony, my 7th grade teacher, Mr. Hansen, who are the reasons I ever believed I could be a writer. Writing it can be a very solitary endeavor. I think many of us know that. And I'm so lucky not to do this in solitude. I have so many amazing writing colleagues who lift me up every day. I have amazing friends who support me. You heard them. And a special shout out to Carrie and Karen. This book was dedicated to them. They're the ones with the pom-poms. I also just have to thank my colleagues at the Graduate Program of Creative Writing at Western Collier University. They create such an amazing community. Thank you, Kevin and Laura, my 2 co-finalists from that program, who also, I love that community so much. And I have to thank my husband, Travis. You are the reason I believe in love, and you are the reason that I can write romance. I am going to read from Forbidden in the Falls, which is part of the Devon Falls series. It is a queer, small town romance series. Devon in the Falls can you tell I'm a little nervous? The Devon Falls series is a series that's really about the importance of belonging, it's about the importance of inclusion, and it's about the importance of accepting people and loving them for who they are. It's the story of Dr. Sam Evers, a man who has been recently widowed and is trying to find his path forward, and Malachi Flynn, his young office assistant, an aspiring nurse, who has not been accepted for who he is, who has not found belonging, and is searching for that. I'm going to read a section from a moment in the book when Malachi is having a panic attack after being asked to speak in front of a town event. The strangest thing about panic attacks, I've always thought, is that they quickly appear and disappear. One minute I'm absolutely convinced I'm going to die, and the next minute it's as if nothing ever happened, as though the world was just set back upright on its axis again, and everyone's just going about their business. I glance up at Dr. Evers as I take in exactly how closely we're sitting together. Oh, just yesterday, he was telling me that we need to hold stricter boundaries when we're together, and now I'm basically sitting in his lap. I scramble to stand. Hey, calm down. He moves slightly to the side of me, so that his arm is still around me, but we're not quite so physically connected. How are you feeling? Do you often have panic attacks? Breathe in and count. Hold and count. Let it out and count. I follow the sequence my old high school counselor taught me before I know I'm ready to answer him. I used to, but it's been a few months now. I thought maybe they were gone. Any idea what brought this one on? His tone is so mild, gentle, and that tone makes it easier to tell the truth. I have to stand on that stage and thank the winery for supporting the festival. I'm not exactly the best at public speaking. I see. He nods. I notice he's picked up a piece of grass and is chewing it thoughtfully now, holding it between his teeth as he looks off over the rolling hills in front of us. The green, grassy lanes there intermixed with fallen yellows and reds and oranges. Every new fallen leaf brings us closer to the festival. That makes sense. I snort. Yeah, because everybody has panic attacks right before they have to speak out loud. He shrugs. Many people do, he says softly. You won't be the first or the last. We sit in silence for a moment. He chooses grass, and I breathe. I admire so many things about you, he finally says. I jerk my head up so fast my neck hurts. What would you ever admire about me? I ask incredulously. As I said, many things. Your kindness, your desire to be good at everything you do, your fortitude. He glances behind the barn, toward the stage that's so quickly become my nemesis today. You never give up, Malachi, he murmurs. Some of us, we give up on things so quickly. We settle. I can never imagine you settling for anything less than what you deserve. I gulp back the shock that quickly courses through my system. I doubt anyone in the world sees me that way. I certainly don't. Dr. Evers stands and holds out his hand to pull me up. I take it without thinking. If you don't want to speak, I imagine you don't have to, he says. But know that I have every faith in you. I have every faith that you can do anything you set your mind to, Malachi. It takes a few minutes of counting my breaths before I'm ready, but then I nod and turn and start walking toward the stage. I let the memory of everything he said carry me through each step I take to the stage front, through my short remarks thanking the winery for their support, through my applause and cheering of the crowd as I step back down away from the stage. My sneakers touch the grass with a thump as I glance around me and find Dr. Evers standing next to the barn, still chewing on a blade of grass while he sends me a thumbs up. Breathe in. Breathe out. Don't think about him leaving Vermont without you. Don't think about you leaving Vermont without him. Just breathe. Thank you all so much. And thank you to the Colorado Center for the Humanities.
Thank you, Joanna. The next award category is science fiction and fantasy. The finalists are Nether Station by Kevin J. Anderson, The Future Lies by John B. Lane, Transference by Ian Patterson, and the Colorado Book Award in Science Fiction and Fantasy goes to Transference by Ian Patterson.
What an honor. I can't believe I'm up here today as an indie author. This is my debut novel. It feels completely unreal. Before I forget, I want to thank my wife for being my support. She's always been so encouraging. I started writing after the birth of our first daughter, which is an incredibly terrible time to start writing. And she stuck with me writing at 4 o'clock in the morning most mornings. Through my first book, my second book now, and several others that are in the works. So thank you, and thank you to all of my supporters. This is actually my personal book, and I've had a ton of them sign it, which is really great to carry with me tonight. And thanks to Colorado Humanities and Ryan Warner. That was such a great opening. Thank you. Just a small reading. Before I start, when my mom passed in 2020 from cancer, I got to see how healthcare and a market economy can really eat those we love. And reflecting back, that's really one of the major contributors to what prompted me to write this. And although it's science fiction, it's really a critique of where we're at as a society and what we focus on. The disease transfer machine, or the box as we call it down here, was invented sometime before the city. It's always existed here, the primary thing shaping our lives. It sounds noble at first, the elimination of disease, until you realize it only works that way if you can afford it. For those of us in the lower levels, it's the thing killing us. It's the only job we can find. It's a poison we can't stop eating. Do I know how it works? Not a fucking clue. One person sits at each side of the giant metal box. Various tubes extend from it and connect to each of them. There's a giver's seat and a receiver's seat and no one else in the room when they turn the thing on. It's a strangely intimate thing, sitting across the room from your destroyer. There's a feeling of great suction all over your body, and then the misery sets in. The symptoms start like a bucket of ice water dumped on your shoulders. I've always wondered what a great relief it must feel like on the other side. The backbone of our economy is built on it. The very rich trade their diseases to the very poor for appropriate compensation agreed on by both parties. But realistically, when you're poor enough, you're too constrained to know what appropriate compensation is. Some people have tried to create laws around it, establishing contractual requirements and base pay for different diseases. They don't mean much, though. There was always someone willing to go under the base pay. There was always someone that needed the money badly enough to take the risk. Laws just give the illusion that what's happening is fair. Of course, it's not. This new cast of people, the perpetually ill, were lovingly named sickos. The working poor hated them for the ease they got their money. The middle class decried the horrors of rampant capitalism they represented, and everyone tried to buy their services when their own bill came due. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Our next category is thriller, and the finalists are Anyone But Her by Cynthia Swanson, If You Lie by Caleb Stevens, The Father She Went to Find, a novel by Carter Wilson. And the Colorado Book Award in thriller goes to Anyone But Her by Cynthia Swanson.
Wow, thank you. So I'm really fortunate that this is the second time I've been up here accepting a Colorado Book Award. And the first time I did it, I didn't prepare anything because I thought it would be a sign of humility if I didn't. And so I totally flubbed it. So this time I have notes. So I do want to thank the Colorado Book Award, Colorado Humanities, and the Center for the Book for for putting this on and for having this happen every year. And the judges, Ryan and Anthony, I appreciate everything that you're doing. Carter and Caleb, fabulous books. My writing communities, and booksellers, librarians, readers, and members of the local media. It's just, we're really lucky in Denver to have such a great writing community, and my family and my friends, and especially my husband who's here with me. So Anyone But Her is set in Denver. It's a dual timeline story set in 1979 and 2004, and it's a mother-daughter story and a ghost story. I'm going to read you just a tiny bit from the beginning. Chapter 1, 1979, because I'm short. My mother first spoke to me from the grave on an August night shortly after my father began dating Peggy. Mom arrived on a whisper laden with intention. Suzanne, her voice broke through the stillness in my room. It's me. Reflexively, I opened my eyes, but it wasn't with them that I saw her. I simply knew she was there, and for a moment, it felt like time before. Like she was just checking on me before turning in for the night. I was 14 years old, and until February 22nd, my mother had checked on me every night of my life, leaning close, whispering that she loved me, that I was her everything. A smile broke across my face. You're here. Shh. I felt rather than saw her press a finger to her lips. You'll wake him. Her attention turned to my 6-year-old brother, Chris, who was tangled in a crimson-colored sleeping bag on the floor. Chris had his own room next door to mine, but ever since we lost Mom, he often wandered into my room like a sleepwalker and collapsed on my floor. He slept fitfully and woke up crying, crawling into my bed and letting me hold him as he talked about nightmare demons, trolls, dragons, all of whom, Chris explained, waved firearms, but never actually shot anything. They just look like they will, he said. Chris rolled over, his breath ragged, but didn't awaken. But you finally came, I whispered to Mom. I knew you would. I expect you did, my little seer. Mom had always called me her little seer. Our Queen Anne Victorian house in Denver's Capitol Hill neighborhood was built in 1888, and inside its walls, spirits regularly appeared to me like decades flowing through the ancient rooms. Not far from home was Cheeseman Park, which had been built on a desecrated pauper's graveyard. Rumors of ghosts abounded. When I was small, Mom would take me on twilight walks in the park. Tell me what you see, Suze, she'd implore. Toddling after her, using my limited vocabulary, I'd attempt to explain that I didn't actually see ghosts with my eyes. Rather, I envisioned some essence of them, something more than light but less than human. Energy, you might call it, an energy that manifested in impressions, whispers, shadows cast on floor or field. I believe you, my little seer, Mom would reply. I wish it happened for me, too. Since her death, I've been expecting Mom to show up. Not alive, but more real than she'd been since night, 6 months ago, when a low-life junkie named Robert Shelton entered Zoe's Records, Mom's hole-in-the-wall record store on Colfax Avenue, demanded all her cash, and wound up shooting her 3 times in the chest. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Our next category is children's literature. The finalists are Adela's Mariachi Band by Denise Vega and Erica Rodriguez Medina, The Quest for a 10-Gram Dragon by Christine Liu Perkins and Lynn Scurfield, The Wire Zoo, How Elizabeth Berrien Learned to Turn Wire into Amazing Art by Natasha Wing and Joni Stone. And the Colorado Book Award in Children's Literature goes to The Wire Zoo, How Elizabeth Berrien Learned to Turn Wire into Amazing Art by Natasha Wing and Joni Stone.
There's a guy who sat behind me that predicted I was going to win. I don't even know who he is. So thank you. Are you a psychic or something? No? Okay. I love you. So anyway. Oh my gosh. This is a story about an artist, or a child actually, who was trying to find her way of expression and her art form. And it took her high school art teacher the faith that she would find something that would express what she was seeing in her mind. She would see energy lines on animals' surfaces, so instead of seeing a solid animal, she would just see the lines, and she created wire sculptures. So I wanted to just read you some excerpts of excerpts. Keep it short. Okay. Elizabeth saw animals in a special way. Her mind imagined lines flowing across the surface of their bodies, thin lines and thick lines, bright lines and dim lines. She traveled along on a magical ride inside the lines, following the swoop of an elephant's trunk, the zigzag of hair in a cat's ear, the spiral of a snail's shell. To Elizabeth, the flowing lines made each animal unique and beautiful. She wondered, how can I copy these lines so others can see them too? And this book actually is a tribute to her art teacher who had faith, like I said, had faith that she would discover her talent. But everything changed the day that Mr. Curran gave her a roll of wire. The wire was thin and smooth between her fingers. Elizabeth cut a long strand. With both hands, she pulled and curved and crimped and pinched. A bend became an ear, a twist, a whisker. Her mind, eyes, hands, and the wire worked together to create a cat. Finally, she found the thing that expressed the beauty she had seen all of her life. And I just want to say that this book was 30 years in the making. Yeah, and both of us are still alive. Elizabeth lives in Washington, and she's still making her art. Her art is shown all over the world. She's created new ways of twisting wire and figuring out ways to collapse it and reshape it. She's still creating life-size animals with her wire, and that's why the book is called The Wire Zoo. So I just want to thank her for being patient. For the 30 years I kept calling her and saying, is this detail right? Do you have any new pieces I need to include? And she hung in there with me. I'm going to have to text her a picture tonight, so I hope my husband takes one for me. Anyway, I want to thank my editor, Catherine Ladone, for seeing the value of this book's message, to Joni Stone, the illustrator, for capturing the energy of Liz Wyer's art, and Elizabeth Berrien for her patience with the multiple revisions over the years. And lastly, I want to thank my husband for supporting my career for the past 34 years. He kept reminding me when I found out I was a finalist, he's like, this is really big. And I was like trying to be really cool, and because I get nervous. So I was trying to be really cool, but I just want to tell Dan, yep, this is really big. You were right. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Natasha. Our final category this evening is Young Adult Literature. And the finalists are I'll Be Waiting for You by Mariko Turk, Unmasked, A Mark of the Least novel by Kendra Merritt, Virch, The Illusion Matters by Laura Resaw. And the Colorado Book Award in Young Adult Literature goes to I'll Be Waiting for You by Mariko Turk. And such a beautiful music cue to go with it, too. Well, anyway, congratulations, Mariko. I want to also thank Ryan, Maggie, and Sarah. Fantastic. And congratulations to all of you Colorado Book Award winners and finalists. Let's have a big round of applause for a job very well done. Now, would all of the award winners take 15 minutes to congratulate one another right here? And then please gather for a group photograph on stage. We want to be sure to capture this historic moment with all of you here together. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us for the 34th Annual Colorado Book Awards. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great, safe journey home.